Yeah, we got a flag. All right, thank you for coming. I want to call the June 7th, 2016 Blackman's Port Committee meeting to order. We're going to take a roll call.
Councilmember Bartholomew.
Present.
Councilmember Black.
Present.
Councilmember Burt.
Here.
And Councilmember Trufant Salvan is absent.
Please also make note that the parish president is in attendance. If you'd please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll move to item 2, old business. Does anybody have any old business? Charlie?
I have none.
All right, move to item 3A, new business. Mr. Pennison, the executive report director, is not in attendance. I think he's still on vacation.
Yes, sir.
Do you have anything?
No, sir, I don't have any reports, Mr. Black.
Does anybody have any questions or anything for Mr. Pennison? Okay, let's go to 3B, the discussion regarding extension of the Arlington Group contract. I'll turn it over to Mr. Pennison.
Yes, sir, thank you, Chairman Black. This is, Arlington Group is our consultant / lobbyist up in Washington, D.C., and his contract is set to expire as of August 15 of 2016, and we just wanted to put this on. Mr. Black will hopefully introduce this at the next full board meeting, and we just wanted to have an open discussion if there are any questions in regards to this. That's
Okay.
about it.
All right, so this hasn't even been introduced yet. This is for introduction this Thursday? I'm sorry, the following.
Following.
All right, the following
Yes,
Thursday.
This has not been introduced.
I have a question.
Yeah. You have a copy? I have a copy.
I know this has come up several times, but how can we tie this back to the parish and have one contract versus two?
I'm open for suggestions. I did mention it to Mr. Lynott about that may be coming down the pipe. I'm not privileged to what kind of contract that the parish has. If you would like, I guess I can talk to Coach Mr. Ames Cormier and investigate that contract, because both contracts would still have to come before the independent boards.
Right. I think some of the services or some of the items being discussed are kind of overlapping, port and parish, and maybe combined, maybe it'll save the parish a few dollars, as well as the port, or, vice versa.
Yes, sir. I appreciate your position, and I can report back to y'all by the full meeting. I'll meet with Mr. Cormier and take his feelings on it. Maybe he'll let me be privileged to his contract, and we can go into some kind of negotiation with Mr.
I totally agree. I think if Mr. Lynott is representing us and the parish, if we can just do maybe a single contract, that's even feasible. I'm not sure if that's even possible, but if you could get with...
I'd have to talk to the attorneys and talk to the president's office. It may be doable.
The council is the governing authority, they have to port anyway.
Right.
Yes, sir. I understand, and we have the situation where, like,
it shouldn't be no duplicate, it should be one and the same.
Yep.
Understanding the objective of the port is something different, but the objective of the responsibility belongs to the Packing Parish government.
I agree.
So if we can work together, that would be great.
Yes, sir. We will contact him, and I'll work with Mr. Cormier and his staff to see if we can get it down to one contract.
Is the other consulting people you're talking about Trident, the one that gave the presentation, or is this a different?
No.
The second one.
Yeah, no, this is...
No, the same group represents the parish
Okay, so you have
and
the
the
same
port.
group. Okay, that's
He's
all.
a lobbyist in D.C.
Okay, all right.
It's Larry Lynott.
Same company.
Yeah, it's Arlington Ridge Group.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We represent both parties, instead of doing one.
Second contract.
Right.
We have different agendas as far as the council and the port, but being the representative of one body, we one body. For us
So they go show the two bills there.
Right, exactly.
Two contracts. I mean, like I said, a lot of it's, some of the issues we're trying to get help with in Washington are overlap, so.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on. We'll just make 3B and 2. Mr. Pennison's going to look into having a joint contract with PPG.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else have any on 3B? All right, with that, we'll go to 3C, discussion regarding the renewal of the ad valorem tax.
Yes, let me state right up front that this is not an additional tax. This is a renewal of the existing tax. And if you have the proposed ordinance in front of you, the operative phrase in this ordinance is, in the whereas, this is in order to restate levy of the district tax pledged to secure bonds. This is a requirement by state law, correct? That you, the governing body of the port, has to restate the levy every year, as required by state law.
I'm just going to record statement, Solvent. Councilwoman Solvent is in attendance now. Just to refresh real quick, we just went over, there was no executive director, port status update, he's still on vacation. And the Arlington Group contract, we want to look into making that into a joint contract possibly with PPG, because they have Arlington Group, Larry Lynott up in D.C. as their contractor, or their lobbyist, and we have a separate contract with the port, so we discussed it and came to the conclusion that we could, Mr. Penniston's been looking to having one contract instead of two separate contracts.
Okay.
And now we're on the ad valorem tax, which Mr. Penniston pretty much just stated it's not a new tax, it's a renewal of the
Existing
of
3 mills.
existing 3 mills.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Which I spoke to the assessor's office, and this is pretty customary.
Yes, sir. You'll find the other taxing bodies will have to pass similar legislation. And there's, again, the Port Board passed similar legislation last year.
So is this an automatic renewal, or?
Yes, ma'am. The original issue was for 5 years, and this is just a state requirement that every year the council or the Port Board has to readopt the levy.
Now, what's the implications if it fails and it doesn't pass?
It'd be my understanding then the bonds won't be secure, and I guess they would be due and payable.
And how much do we owe?
Be right with you.
Up to 5.7 on it.
We've retired $5.71 million.
How much? What was the?
The total was, the principal was $9.5 million. In interest and everything was another $700,000, came to $10.2 million.
I got $3,760,000.
Left?
That's the principal.
What we owe now?
Yes.
Yes.
The principal balance.
How much is, can you repeat that?
$3,760,000. We did some additional retirement in addition to the scheduled payments. I recently did an additional payment a couple of weeks ago, so I'm waiting on Regions representatives to send me an updated copy of the amortization schedule so I can determine how much in total we've saved on interest. So I'll just give you the principal balance. I don't want to give you the total because, I don't have all the interest details.
And so with 3 mills, I mean, that's probably going to generate close to that. Do you think we're going to have it paid off this year? I mean, if we're paying it aggressively, we only owe 3.7 million, and do we still have a 3 mil renewal?
But we haven't collected 3.7 exactly. We've collected close to it in the
Annually?
previous years. Yeah, annually, roughly about 3 million. Yeah, about 3 million. So you would still be looking at, even if you collected 3
Close to
and
$1
paid
million,
it,
maybe.
right,
$1 million,
close to $1 million with the interest, because that's only the principal.
Okay.
I have a question. Okay, I got this public records request from the court. We did a cash transfer in December for this property. We transferred $9.5 million cash to the Bank of Paris from Dwyer, Cambry, and Suffolk. I have the closing cost sheet. So
When was that?
that was December 3rd, 2013. The bond was not received until 2014 from the bond attorneys, Jones Walker. That's on the documents that I got on the CD. My question is, how do you wire $9.5 million cash that you don't have the bond for yet? And then at $3 million times 5 years, it comes out to exactly $9.5 million to be paid back, which is what you would want to do. My question is, how did we afford to wire that money, cash, with $57,000 going to Rathburns Company for closing costs and title fees, if we didn't have that money in there? And if we did, why did we go take a bond out after? I'm just asking.
No, I can't answer that question.
I would assume, and I don't have the information in front of me, but I would assume that the $9.5 million that was wired by Mr. Rathbun's firm was the bond issue itself, the money, the revenues generated by the bond issue.
I thought so too, but when I got the resolution on it for the thing, from the attorney firm, it was cash. It was not the issuance, it was not their word that the bond was going to come, because John Alario only gave us a conditionary bond approval in the state bond commission. It wasn't all the way through yet when that went through.
When did we receive the bond?
September 2014.
Yeah, that's something we have to look into. I'm not aware of that, You want to elaborate anymore?
No, I was just, you said that we received the bond in 2014?
You received the bond, it was issued, it arrived as a conditional approval on December 2013. This is to buy the land. That the bond was going to be approved. The actual bond itself was not issued and approved until a year later, until September 2014, according to the papers from Jones Walker.
Is that it?
And I do have one other question. The proposal that Trident, the master plan that Trident gave at the presentation of the council meeting, they stated that the contract was signed in 2011, and when it was negotiated in 2009, the payments to Trident started in 2009. The contract was signed, negotiated then for land acquisition. But they said in their presentation that they did not disclose to the public all 11 elements of the land acquisition, which means they did not disclose at the time to the council or to the public that the land around the port was already in negotiations to be bought, which we all know belongs to Billy, Woodland Borough Pits, Point Celeste, PDNC. All of that land had been negotiated in 2009, but never disclosed to the council, to my knowledge, from what they said in their own presentation. So I went back and looked at the presentation and got a copy of it offline. It's online. And it has the parcels of land color-coded as to what they decided when they decided to put this port on that piece of property. So my question is, in 2009, the president was William Nungesser. How can you negotiate a contract for your own land and sign off on it, and it's his signature, and negotiate that but not disclose it to the public or to anybody else? Even if it's in a trust, I don't care what kind of trust it's in, it's still your land. So with that being said, all of the parcels around 6B, to the right and to the left quadrant, they all belong to Nungesser. So in 2009, he knew that. How does that, that's ethically wrong, but it's also, it's kind of like breaking the law.
Yeah,
I think.
like I said, I don't want to, get down to that rabbit hole too deep. We're talking about the ad valorem tax, so I do have to kind of constrain a little bit, but. No, I understand the point, I understand the point.
When I listened to the presentation again, the man said it twice. He says that this was proposed, but they only let out to the public 6 elements of the 11. And when he said that, I went back and looked, and that was the reason why. Why wasn't it disclosed before? It's just something to look into.
Yeah, obviously this board doesn't know
Exactly.
that answer, and
Right.
it is worth looking into.
I hate to see spending money on a company that we had all of this plan, and I mean, I don't know
Right.
what Trident is doing, or what have they done, but that's an awful lot of money when we're in such a money crunch to be paying them for something that was already predetermined, and then you got 2 contracts with Arlington Group when it could be one, and which I didn't know anything about, but I mean, I'm just trying to...
Right, and that's what we're trying to do, is what we're trying to do, I mean, so, does anybody have anything else on the
Yeah,
ad
I would
valorem
just-
tax?
No, on ad valorem, but just for the record, I would like Mr. Pennison or Sandy or someone to respond to the issue that Ms. Wilcox raised. You know, that's valid, that valid question, even though it has nothing to do
I wouldn't
with
say,
the topic that we
I
have
wouldn't say
on
respond to Ms. Wilcox, respond to the board at a committee meeting, or, and we'll put it as an item.
And just to clarify, the question was the time lapse between the payment of the 9.5 million in December of 12/3 of 13 to the bonds being issued in September of 14. Is that the question?
I think that was one of the questions.
one of
That's the one with
you know.
regards to the ad valorem.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one with regards to that with Laurel. So we can clear that issue up, and then, I mean, if you want to,
And obviously, I mean, I can bring you the paperwork that I have, it's all public record, and show you how I derived it. I mean, it wasn't until I got the board's public records that I, figured out the dates and stuff, and that's why I did a timeline to make sure, because I may be wrong, but I'm just going off of what they said, and I just didn't know how that could be possible.
Could you email your specific question?
Yeah.
That way we can address that.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
That way we can address it,
I sure will.
And as Mr. Black said, after you address the question, we would like the response to be forwarded to the board.
Absolutely.
Ms. Wilcox, can you also send it to the council secretary, please? Thank you.
I will.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Russo, you had a question?
On the ad valorem tax, you say we have a balance of 3.7 million?
The principal balance.
Principal balance.
Yes.
How much do we have in the land purchasing fund?
In the land... Oh, I don't have no budget. Let me see if I have
About
it.
5.6? Are we?
I can't answer that. I want to make sure. Let's see.
I read my writing while I do.
Today I read my white book.
Any other questions from anybody while we're waiting for Mr. Russo's answer?
Can that money be used, what can that money be used for, just in generalities?
Support land
purchase?
fund.
To buy, purchase land?
It's dedicated for land purchase, is my understanding. Right, Mr. Russo? I mean,
And my point is that,
Good.
if we wanted to retire the debt,
Right.
I believe that there's funds there, but I want to get under the answer to that question. And if that's the case, millage doesn't have to be put on this year. And not to spread the conversation, but you might have a better chance with George.
Transfer. Don't leave yet, Coach.
See you at the auditorium, I guess.
Yeah, there is a question that I would like to raise. I was in a conversation with Mr. Pennison early, and it was regarding the drainage situation on the Ford property. And I was somewhat puzzled why that was not a part of today's agenda, rather than being discussed at the meeting tomorrow, when we had an official board meeting here
Yeah, I mean,
today.
I didn't make the agenda.
And Ms. Sauter, Mr.
Yeah.
Cormier confirmed the meeting today, so the agenda was already issued, and we weren't trying to.
Ms. Marcotte sent the agenda out, and we've asked for anybody's input to add anything to the agenda, and I don't think anybody responded a couple days ago, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so it went to all the board members and asked to add anything to the agenda before the agenda was
You know, I
finally
worked
approved.
away from my office today, and I think that all of these changes came about, and I think the conversation that I had with Mr. Pennison probably was either after that meeting or during the time of the meeting assignment, but I was just a little bit thrown by we having an official meeting here today, and we're going to deal with a port issue separately tomorrow. So,
I'm sorry, on that, I read that contract, and they bought the land as is. They knew about the drainage problem before, and that's in the paperwork that I have. So if we ask them to fix anything.
and that's one of my concerns, yeah. Yeah.
At the end of the 2016 budget, we estimated that the ending balance would be $5,376,525.41.
I'll hand off about 5.3 million.
Yes.
Yes.
So my other point is that if we want to pay off the bonds, we have cash to do that.
Now, would that affect capital to purchase of the property? I mean, I know we talked about AMAX and some other facilities. I mean, I wouldn't...
My biggest concern, Mr. Black, would be that is basically the port's entire reserved earnings. And right now, we have 5.3 million, in which is projected in unreserved, undesignated at the end of the year.
Of 16, unreserved will be 458, $458,670.
So my concern would be that if, in the event of a problem, say another Katrina, God forbid, but if the port would, in effect, be shut down and unable to build for a year, or whatever, which basically happened in Katrina, we would have no source of revenue for a year, and that would be our savings bank, $5 million.
So to follow up on that, what is your operational cost per year?
No, in the neighborhood of 4.2?
Not including debt, operational cost, payroll.
Just speaking off the cuff, it's probably in the neighborhood of,
I have expenditures for 16 was budgeted at 6.6, and we have about 2 million in debt payments.
Yes,
That's included in that
yeah.
expense.
So 4.2 or so?
yeah, 4.2, 4.5.
Yes, that's
Yes,
the
so that
total.
includes payroll, yeah. Payroll is normally, and I'm just shooting from memory, payroll including office and boat, by recollection, is about $2.5 million per year.
And how do we get to full?
What's your operation?
Operation expenses, and insurance is,
Contracts.
operation expenses, life insurance, health insurance for the port, port employees, that's all factored in the budget,
And the capital outlay.
and capital outlay.
Not the contract?
Contracts included. Operations, the 4 million would include your payroll, your operational expenses, and your capital outlay as well. Because we budget 6.6 million in expenditures, and I know 2 million of that is debt payment, debt expense. Yeah.
I'm trying to get down to what it really costs to operate the port without the frills, the contracts, and those things. So, I mean, I'll review the budget. My point is that we do have 5.3 million payments. We still have a couple of million left over for emergency situations.
I think on the site, it gives the operational budget, because I asked that too, and it shows that operational without their payroll and insurance was like 2.1 million, and that was on the 14th.
Right.
Yep.
The 4 minus the 2 for payroll.
Does anybody have any more questions or comments about the ad valorem. With that, I have no problem, Ms. Sullivan, if you want to move back to item 2, old business, because we did have the drainage on that agenda from last week, and I'm not sure if that's possible. We can go back to old business. If you want to discuss that, if the drainage issue was on the last committee's agenda,
Yes.
it falls into old business.
Yes, I would like to revert back to it and have Mr. Pennison kind of, give us a description of just where we are and what we are facing, because as Ms. Wilcox said earlier, I was under the impression that the property was sold as is. And
It was bought
to come
as
back
is.
afterward.
She is correct.
Yeah. I don't know of any property or anything that you could sell and then come back and make adjustments
Well,
after the act of sale is complete.
And Ms. Audrey, the problem existed when the property was purchased. Okay? And since then, it's apparently gotten worse. The problem arises from that the water from the property doesn't drain sufficiently or fast enough. It can't get to the pump station in Point Celeste. The pump station can't run efficiently because they have to stop it and wait for the water to drain. In various conversations with Blair and Greg Simpson, there's 2 plugs, if you will, in the back levee canal, approximately 300 feet long each. That impedes the water flow to the pump station. Okay. The other ditches, there's 2 parallel ditches that run, there's 2 ditches that run parallel to the road, and those ditches are in terrible shape. The ditches that drain from the highway back to the back levee canal, there's a problem in one place there off the Port property where the entire thing drains through a 15-inch culvert. Now, the water can't go down, it's got to go back, okay? And it's got to go through a 15-inch culvert to get to the back. Now, even when it does make it to the back, there's a problem that it can't drain to the pump station because of 2, quote, plugs in the canal. And the reason we want to have the meeting is so Mr. Blair Rittner can do, Greg Simpson can inform everybody of the problems encountered and try to work out a path forward.
Is there a possibility during that meeting, if we can get, Ms. Sullivan definitely should be in attendance, obviously, it's
Oh,
a district.
yes, sir, she is
And then,
invited, she's
it does affect
accepted.
the properties, and the Corps of Engineers, so I think they do have a...
They do have-
a project that is,
On
now, I
his
was
short
told that
notice-
that project's a long way away, but I mean,
Yes,
at least they need to
that's
be
my
informed, and
understanding,
maybe give
right.
us kind of a timeline or a high-level effect.
There is a project to dig the back levee canal right at the back of the Port property, if you will. That's connected to the levee raising project. The raising of the levee is actually going to fill in the current back levee canal. The back levee canal, because as you go higher, you have to go wider. So it's my understanding that back levee canal will cease to exist. It'll move to the canal that's at the back of the Port property, be dug to 8 to 10 feet deep, and I think an additional 25 feet of property is going to be taken from the backside to widen the canal. That canal, going forward from now, will be the main drainage canal behind the Port. But Venture Global has expressed concerns that they're having trouble getting their contractors out there because of water standing on the property.
That was going to be my next question. Did the port receive anything in writing from Venture Global indicating that they have issues with the drainage?
Yes, ma'am. I'll have to double check, but I'm fairly certain we did. Okay, but we've had meetings with several of the individuals, including Mr. Bob Pender, who's the CEO, if you will, owner or one of the founding partners of Venture Global, and he was quite adamant and expressed a lot of concerns with regards to the drainage on the property.
I have a question then. The studies that we talked about at the last council meeting when Trident did their studies, we had numerous amount of studies done showing that the port should have never been on the west bank of the river. So my question is, if Venture Global is such a big, wonderful company who knows what their business, and so does Trident that we're spending all this money with, they had to know that the drainage was not good back there. because obviously the people who sold them that piece of land knew it wasn't good. And another thing is that the Corps of Engineers was going in front of Highway 23 with that levee till they got around to Billy's property where they wanted everyone to move across the highway. So they knew it then, and they said nothing, but they didn't mind trying to move people out of their homes. And yes, I get a little bit of passion about that because people, that's all they have. So I got a big problem with even trying to get this money because it's not our problem. Shouldn't have went there in the first place. Venture Global knew it, so did TriDeck. If they rich in all their funds, let them pay for it. We're sucked dry. We have nothing left. We're taxed out the wazoo, and people don't even have jobs. Enough. And it is enough. I mean, they've already tried to move it once.
Mr.
And
Chairman,
it's just my opinion.
what is global attitude as far as if they brought something as is, they're responsible of doing it and not tacking on what they're going to do if you don't do it?
Their view on the property, Mr. John, is that the problems that exist came to bear, were in existence. How can I, let me think through this, how it actually went
Came
down.
after the sale?
Yes, sir, they are holding that the port, that the problems existed after the sale, that it's gotten worse after the sale.
Since the
Yes, sir.
this development of back levee and the pits and everything else being caught impeded the drain
But that's
system.
not true.
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
that's,
there is record of having problems back there beforehand, and it was disclosed in their paperwork from what I read. I had the contract, so I don't know, maybe I'm reading it wrong. but-
so the attitude is that if it doesn't happen, from our standpoint, what they plan on doing? They
I
discuss
can't
it?
speak for Venture Global.
No, they didn't say anything about it?
No, sir.
That's why I was
They just felt that it was, should be, at least some effort made to drain the property.
Expenses at the port, it was port and port effort.
Yes, sir.
So we got a timeline on when we can have a meeting with two of the committee members and the Corps of Engineers, folks from Plaquemines Parish Government, as far as...
The first meeting, again, we have one at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, so you have, okay.
Yes, sir, and Mr. Burt, Ms. Savant, Mr. Russo have been invited,
Okay.
along with members from the administration, so...
And I guess we need to have a follow-up meeting that Mr. Bartholomew and I can maybe make that one if...
I'm going to try and make it.
Well, not tomorrow, we can't, but...
I'm sorry if I can make it tomorrow.
Mr. Russo?
Last conversation with Venture Global, they did have high water back there one time that they were aware of, that they conveyed to me. And as I said at the last meeting, I had videotape of the entire property where there's really no standing water on there. Now, we know that Myrtle Grove floods and that levee broke, and I'm not sure what the time frame is, but what happened or what transpired between the time that they purchased the property, they executed the option of the lease, let me correct that, they executed the option of the lease, and today, that made the problem worse. Has there been anybody on the property? Have they done anything to the property to make it worse?
The board has not.
Has anybody done anything?
They had some people doing soil borings out there, yes.
Now, that's Venture Global's people that
Yes,
they
sir.
hired
Exactly.
to go out there.
It was their contractor hired through Venture Global. We didn't have anything to do with that. That's part of their due diligence.
And so, my concern is when I speak to some of these individuals, and they tell me that they have trouble crossing the ditch, and when I saw the equipment out there, there were many marsh buggies, so to speak, or track vehicles that float. Now, I, talked to a lot of people about marsh buggies and these drilling facilities, these drilling pieces of equipment. I've never once heard them have a problem crossing a ditch. So, I think that if there's a plug in the canal, who put it there? And when did it happen? And I'm not against trying to facilitate or help something, but I don't like the discussion and the tone of the discussion to say, like, clean or drain the properties. Just like in my discussion with them, they started talking about expanded wetland footprints. If you go back and look at where the Corps designated the spoil area, which is a hot subject for me because I thought that the material that they dig out of this canal, that is not a canal now, that will be a canal before the levee is built, is the same material that is right next door on the property that they want to build on. You just said 25 feet over. So if you're looking at digging a canal at the back of the port property and the entire footprint is within 25 feet of that canal, the difference between the soils cannot be that much different. And to take it a step further, if the Corps has already designated a spoil area of some 25, 30, or 40 acres, and you put that material on there at the Corps' request, that eliminates possibly 40 acres of wetlands that we are talking about, since the Corps has already delineated that area as a spoil area. So I'm not sure who, and I'm not trying to say that someone hasn't done their due diligence, but when I sit here and I listen to the conversations from all sides and try to make a sense of what is really transpiring, you know, I got a lot of questions, so to speak, about the equipment not crossing the ditch, the refusal of the material on the spoil area to eliminate potential wetlands of at least 40 acres or whatever that footprint is, and I'll have to go back and dig up the maps and see exactly what it is. So, you know, I didn't get any indication that someone did something to make the problem worse. And if they did, then we need to hold them accountable for damaging the port property.
If I can respond, please. Through personal observation and actually being on a property, I did tour the property and I went out where they were drilling, and they had a machine set up on, quote, dry land, unquote. They were drilling in ankle-deep water. Okay, that was through personal observation. Now, I can appreciate that you had saw the property, did see standing property, maybe in the last 2 weeks, but understand that we've been through an extremely dry period as of late, maybe, except for maybe the last few days. We went through about 2 weeks where we hardly had any rain to speak of. And I had some of the same arguments that you had, Mr. Russo, with Venture Global. And I just didn't get any traction. Okay? And I don't have an answer for you.
But this is a follow-up, ankle-deep water. You know, I got that in my backyard.
Understood.
So, when you're out there with drilling equipment,
Oh, and let me, sorry to interrupt, but one thing, and this is what I voiced to them. The day, this all started because one of the contractors called and said that they were knee-deep in water. They couldn't do their job. They're the soil boring people. Okay, well, it was on our part. I wasn't in to take the call. Sandy went in. Donald Dirk took the call. He's been kind of supervising the property. Well, he referred them to the pump station. The pump station basically said the people in the pumping department, and I'm not throwing rocks, I'm just telling you how it happened in my understanding. Venture Global was told that the problem was with the property itself, that the water was standing on the property. Now, when all this went down was that Wednesday, Thursday, when we had 2 days, maybe 8-10 inches of rain within a 12-15-hour period, you would expect to have that kind of water on the property. But the issue arose from the contractor saying he was knee-deep in water, and the drainage department saying that, hey, the problem is that the water doesn't seep off the port property fast enough to get to the pump station. They have to shut the pump down, let the water drain, crank the pump up, pump it, let the water drain.
Well, I'll say this, I mean, no drainage work has been done on that property. We've had discussions about it. This is the second meeting now. You've set up meetings starting tomorrow, and I think that's the first step to try to resolve this issue, to see if there even is a drainage problem. There may not be.
There may not be.
There may not be, and I think that's why.
That way we'll have the parish engineer there, and he can discuss that.
In the Corps, in the Solvent, it's our district, so.
When they do the study, the Corps is obviously in on the study, correct?
Which-
For the land, when they like the...
The land acquisition and,
The port, like when Trident did their study? I mean,
I don't know, John.
When Trident, which study? Are you talking about
Well, we had
the
a
master plan?
Yes, when they, to lease that property, when they did the study to see if the port could even be supported on this side, I am quite certain that it was in that study that they would have learned about all of the drainage and all that.
I'm going from memory,
Right, uh-huh.
Ms. Wilcox. As I recall, the contract you referred to in 2009 was for the master plan.
Correct.
I think the amount was $551,000. Okay. Out of the master plan, Trident recommended AMAX, Citrus Lands property, and the third one was to do something with Venice Port Complex. That was back in 2009. Okay, the way the port property, how,
I was under the impression from there, because the guy from Vickerman, he said that
No.
West Bank wasn't even in the realm of their situation to buy land, according to the study. He said that on tape. He did. I think someone asked him directly, was the West Bank even considered? And he said no. So my question is, if they're going to lease that land and they did their own study, then they knew about a drainage problem, I mean, in southeast Louisiana anyway.
well, I think back in 2009, perhaps the problem wasn't as bad. A lot of the problem came in 2012 with Isaac. You know, that area flooded, right?
I think we just speculate right now. I think
Yeah,
tomorrow's meeting is to happen.
Right.
And, you know, PPG, Port, Corps, Council, I think can weigh in, and we can come to a determination at one of the next port meetings to even see if there is a drainage problem, and then we'll
Yes,
take it
sir.
from there. Like I
We
said,
should have more answers
we may not
tomorrow
have a drainage
afternoon.
problem, we don't know. I mean, and I think that's the forum
Right.
to have those meetings and make that determination. And then when we get to that road, we'll make a decision on what to do
Yep.
to alleviate it, if we even have to do anything to alleviate it, if there is a drainage problem.
Granted.
It may be on Metro Global, you know, and
It may be.
it may not be, I don't know.
Right.
But we don't even know if there's a problem. This is all speculation based on a contractor being in knee-deep water.
Exactly,
and,
Mr. Black.
You know, and you're someone who
And
leads
so
you
often-
into the pump station, so.
I'm sitting here telling you what I've been told.
You know, and I've heard rumors of overflights and seeing no water, and,
Right.
you know, so who knows?
And you are absolutely correct, but I still would like that letter, Mr. Pennison, because I need to know who's driving this.
Okay.
You know, if Venture Global is stating that they're having issues, and then there's issues of the as-is sale, so we need to get down to the bottom of it.
Okay. We'll look into that, and I'll see what I can get to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes, I had one question, was the Venture Group Capital, they're not taking the entire port property, are they?
No, I think it's just parcels of 3.
Right.
No.
So if there's a problem,
I think you first need to answer the question, correct?
Right.
John, are they taking the entire piece of property?
The current port property, yes.
the 500 something total?
Well, from 548, 632 with servitudes. Yes, sir, they are taking that.
Because I didn't think they were taking it all.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
From
And that-
river to...
and I guess if you see maps, that is what is called parcel 3, John?
Right.
Or 2?
Yeah, 3.
3?
No, 2, I'm sorry.
2,
It is 2.
I apologize. There are maps, and they label 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so that's parcel 2.
And that's,
And if,
That's what the port owns.
yes.
Right.
Port don't own any other property?
No, just 2.
no, sir.
Not yet.
But,
No.
Not yet.
Not yet. It's already been pre-sale.
And Mr. Lawrence, I think if you visit Venture Global's website, they may actually have an overlay of that facility on the port property.
Because I was just questioning the other property next to it, whether it's going to be considered by the port or anything. There's a problem with the drainage on this property. The next property, if you consider anything for the port in that vicinity, has got to have similar or maybe worse problems.
I think there has been some conversation with that attitude.
Okay.
Okay, you got that, Ms. Audrey? Okay. And we'll CC all council members present.
Okay,
Or all
appreciate it.
council, if you will.
All right, no more questions on old business. We'll move to item 4, approval of minutes. Mr. Bert offer. Mr. Falvey, second.
Yes?
I need to do a verbal
roll call,
vote.
yeah.
This is a verbal vote on the minutes. Councilmember Bartholomew? Councilmember Black?
Yes.
Councilmember Burt?
Yes.
Councilmember Trufant Salvin?
Yes.
The motion to adjourn?
Offer.
Offer.
Bartholomew seconds, Mr. Burt offers. We adjourned at 5:45.
Exhibition.
We need the planning.
Yeah, for the Bridge Tunnel?
Gotcha. Raleigh.
Yeah. All it is, Mr. Lawrence, is just a